Hello.
Hello, we are here.
Yay. Welcome. It's good to see all of you. Um, had a couple good sectionals with the altos. And I'm getting my plan. I had a plan with the alto ones were first tonight, and I had a plan that I thought was going to be great. And I felt bad. It didn't really turn out the way I wanted. So I tweaked it for the alto twos, and it was much better. So you guys are going to get the best of me.
Okay.
Eating alto ones, like walking along the street, they look sad. Just let them know Rob did not mean to hurt you. No, I didn't hurt anybody. Sometimes you think you've got a great plan and then no. Which is another reason why it'll be good to be in the same room together, because you can actually adjust those things a little easier.
Yeah, we understand.
I really want to get the theme from Elf introduced. And then I want to work on Hanukkah, because I know with Soprano Ones, Hanukkah is a big thing for you all. But we want to get the theme from Elf introduced. We're going to dive right in with it because it's got some great little warm-ups already built in. So I didn't mention it specifically in my email, but hopefully you guys have your music together and it's easy to get to. Let's pull out the theme from Elf. If you haven't watched this movie in a while, I would encourage you, try to watch it if you can. This piece is the opening credits music, and it comes right after the Bob Newhart scene up at the North Pole. And then once the credits start rolling, this piece plays. And we are doing very, very close to what the instrumental stuff is. So with the theme from Elf, we're going to kind of bounce around. Let's start at page 7, please. Let's start at page 7. Let me play this for you once, just so you can hear it. Here's measure 39. Just this beautiful, simple melody. You do the same thing twice. Let's try doing it on an ah. Are you guys hearing me and the piano okay? Okay. I'll play just your part with no harmony. See if that helps the piano. On an ah, please. 1 and go. Is that any better? Good. Now, you'll note I played exactly what you see on the page. I played all the repeated pitches, right? For instance, top of page 8, right? I played all the repeated pitches. Now, please forget the repeated pitches. I don't want you to re-articulate. No. Legato, beautiful, vibrato, open think a string section, so don't worry about the repeated pitches. I mean, sing the pitches, just don't worry about re-articulating. We want this is Star Trek, folks. That whole thing, that's what this is, okay? Just less science fiction. So one more time, just sing a beautiful ah. Don't worry about re-articulating anything. Here we go. 1 and go. Simple, very beautiful.
It's a good way to keep track of where you are. It's a good way to think those notes in your mind.
Well, yeah, I mean, just make them half notes, right? Just take out, yeah, just so, because the beats are still there. We're just not worried about bum, bum, bum. So you're singing everything you see on the page. I just don't need to hear any re-articulation. Good. Let's back up a little bit and keep warming up. Let's go back to page 5. Here we're back in the key of A. So you do that, you do it twice, same thing twice. Let's sing these fa la las. One and go. Fa la la, fa la la, la la, fa la la, la la, la la. Fa la la, fa la la, la la, fa la la, la la, la. So you have, it changes at the end, but it's the same idea twice. Any questions about that? Pretty easy. Good. So let's go to the last big idea in this piece. We're going to go all the way back to the beginning, which for you, for right now, is page 2. That's where you start singing. On page 2, you start out in unison with the altos, and then by the time you get to page 3, you break out into some harmony. At measure 17, it's the same musical idea, but now you're singing harmony the whole time. Okay, the alto, you'll see it marked in the alto part. They actually have the melody. Good. So here we are, page 2, measure 8. Let's start there. We're still in A. It sounds like this. Oh, before we start, this piece is very much an instrumental overture. The overture idea is there are, like if you go to see Phantom of the Opera and they play the overture, there's a whole bunch of musical ideas, right? Because it's kind of introducing the whole idea of the musical to you. Same idea here. There's a kind of a succession of these ideas that go by very quickly. But the other part is the instrumental part. Most of what you're doing in this piece is just trying to sound like different instruments. So here, when you have these bum-bums, please think about pizzicato strings. Pizzicato is when they pluck, right? But don't think about violins. Don't think about violas. Think about cello and bass. When a cello plucks, there's an enormous amount of resonance. It's not a short note. Violins can sound very short, right? So that's what the M of the bum is. It's that resonance. So it sounds like this, down in my octave. Bum, 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 bum. And it doesn't, this is important. It doesn't matter what the length of the note is, the rhythmic value of the note. I pretty much close to the M at the same time. So whether it's an eighth note, bum, 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 or like at the top of page 3, when you finally get some quarter notes, bum, 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 bum. Notice how I'm still closing to the M. Bum, 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 right? So don't make it this. Bum, 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 right? Don't suddenly make it a word just because it's a quarter note. The whole time it should be roughly the same idea. Cool. Let's sing here. Let's sing at the top of page 2. We're going to keep going when we get into page 3 because your harmony is very, very simple. Here we are at the top of page 2. Oh, 1, 2, go. Keep going. again, your harmony is very simple, right? Now let's skip ahead because that same idea comes back onto page 8. That same idea comes back at page 8, but you'll notice now we're getting ready to finish the piece. So there's a little tag. We actually say some words, believe it or not. But here we are at page 8, measure 47, same idea. 1, 2, go. And we wish you a very Merry Christmas to you. At the very end there, please note I've got the schwa marked in, and we wish a very merry, not wish a. Think about the song, we wish you a Merry Christmas, we wish you a Merry, it's a schwa. So, and we wish a very Merry Christmas to, okay? Now, nice. Let's sing that last little phrase to pick up to 53, because the first time you do it, it's kind of surprising. Pick up to 53, and 1, 2. And see the little cue size notes? We will break out into 3-part. And I may, just a heads up, I may even sneak in a high A for you guys at the end. So just keep that in mind. I mean, if there's some of you who really want to, okay? I see Jackie, she's getting all excited. I can just see her. So we may do that, okay? Carol seemed like she wasn't quite as sure. So, okay, you're there? Okay, go. Great. So the last thing I want to point out is on page 6 at the bottom, you have a brief moment of a melody we all know. And we want this to be joyous and happy, and you can imagine the face you want to have right when you're recording. Jingle bells, jingle all the way. It's very simple. If you listened to the sample recording I provided, don't do what they do. In my notes, I said we want to be childlike, not childish. There were a couple of times in that sample recording where they're trying to be funny, and I think it's just dumb, right? To me, it's not funny. It sounds like an 8-year-old child who needs to be, put in the corner and not allowed to go out singing anymore. So just, good choral singing, happy, bright, but don't do whatever you heard on that recording. Let's go through this whole thing just so you see the scope. Here we go. So I'm going to play the first page just so you get the idea. Let me tell you the last thing I'll say before we sing. The only tricky thing in this whole piece is on page 7, where you start this. That whole deal is tricky because there's no transition. Okay, and again, if you've been to musicals, you know this is how the overture in musicals works. There's not this long drawn out modulation. It is boom. So you'll have to figure out how to get from here to here. So just note that's the only tricky thing in this piece, getting your pitch at 39. Here we go, back to the beginning. Let's go all the way through. Starting on page 1, just so you can kind of hear what the right hand does. And here we go. La 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 la. La 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 la.
I had the A today. I had it.
Okay. Well, have it when you record. I mean, in all seriousness, I will tell, I think what I'll just do is I'll tell the chorus to treat measure 55 and 56 like we're in 4-part. So that way we'll have the soprano 2s on the E, we'll have the alto 1s on the C sharp, we'll have the alto 2s on the A. And as many of you who want to take that A, obviously it needs to be in tune, right? And you know how long it is. It's not very long. 1, 2, 3, off. So, and obviously, it's above the staff, so don't worry about being the oo vowel. Right? Much more of an open, more, lean towards an ah. I would love, if we were doing a live show, I would love for you all to come on stage singing this. I don't know if you guys ever move when you're singing, but it would be so cool just to actually have you take your places. The style we want is Lawrence Welk. Lawrence Welk. I love Lawrence Welk. Twella, do you know Lawrence Welk? How old are you, Twella? Do you mind if I ask?
I'm 27. I do not.
You got to, Lawrence Welk is probably somewhere on PBS still, right? I mean, the guy's long dead. This is the 70s. It is ridiculous clothes. He had a baton like this long that he just kind of wrapped around. But they had live music with great instrumentalists and great choral singers, and their choral technique was through the roof. This is a perfect, they would have done this piece, right? They would have completely covered this piece. That's what we want. That kind of precision, right? That kind of beauty and grace. I kid you not, guys, I was born 30 years too late. I would have been on Lawrence Welk in a heartbeat. Good. All right. So I'm going to give you guys, I want to work on Hanukkah with you. I know you want some of that repetition, but we do need to figure out that's Christmas to me. So what I'm going to say about that right now is, please, please, please listen to pentatonics. I don't do this very often. It's very rare that I tell people to go listen. That's Christmas to me is really tricky to look at on the page. And that's just because of the rhythm of it. But if you listen, you'll absorb that so quickly. Right? So just, with the other 3 parts today, I'm banging out That's Christmas to Me. But I want to go to Hanukkah for you, but we can't forget about that piece. So do some listening with your score. It'll save you. I mean, if you're a great reader of notation, fine. But I've skipped that notation entirely because I listened to the pentatonic so much. I'm like, why do I want to read that? Just feel it. Okay. So I'm encouraging you to do that, which is very bad teaching and you should fire me. But in this one case, I think it's okay. So let's go please to Hanukkah. And let's spend a little time with our friend, the Dreidel of Funk. So what I want to do, guys, is I want to build this piece from the back. I want to go through the sections and, you know, start at the end, back up a section, go to the end, back up another section. You know, this piece has so few measures on any one page. I think the more you understand the structure, it's going to be helpful to you. So let's go, please, to where the great deconstruction begins, and that is on page 14. On page 14 at the bottom, that's the very last measure on 14, which is measure 73. This is the beginning of the end with this piece, okay? So we're going to start there. Now, you don't sing there, but I want you to recognize this as the start of the section. So here we are at the bottom of 14. The altos begin this again. We're going to start at the bottom of 14. We're going to sing your part, of course, when it comes up. Hit my tempo. Good. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. So, I mean, you know, you only do about the same thing 4 times here. If it's tricky at all, it's just that you have to wait, right? You have to wait for when you come in. Please note your dynamics, right? On 15, mezzo piano. On 16, we have a little outburst of mezzo forte, then we're back to mezzo piano. Then we get louder the bottom line. And the last one needs to be, right, nice and full. One more time, that same segment. It's the bottom of 14, the last measure. This is the beginning of the end. 1, 2, 3, 4. Do 1, 2. All right, so that's the last segment. Any questions about what's going on in there? All right, so now let's back it up. The segment before starts on page 13. Measure 65, this very cool thing. That whole deal. And then we break out into thirds. So here we are, this is 65. We're going to go all the way to the end. Well, let's see how this segment works. You know, obviously there's a vowel and it's essentially a schwa. You know, if we just say dreidel, dreidel, but up there, dreidel, lots of ah, right? Nobody has to be the whole time. Dreidel, 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 dreidel. So much more ah, right? Here we go, 65. 1, 2, go. Roll. And crescendo. 1, 2, 3, 4. So please note, 65 is like the climax of this whole piece, right? 65 is this biggest moment. I mean, 65 and what follows. Obviously, when we get to the A's, but Just note the dynamics I've given you. Dreidel, 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 dreidel. Dreidel, 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 dreidel. And growing. You know, I want you to be free and spinning this whole time, right? Free and spinning in the voice. Nobody is like straight toning. Nobody is freaking out about that. But the diminuendo, the crescendo, that's to help you stay free, okay? So you don't want to clench, right? That's not healthy vocal technique. So that's why I've got those in there. Take your breath, and they are quarter note breaths, right? Where you have the line, quarter note breaths. So release, fill with fresh air. This is your big moment, right? This is hot. This is very burning hot. Here we go. Any questions about that segment starting at the bottom of 13, measure 65? I mean, on the one hand, it's not very hard, from an intellectual standpoint, but it's obviously, it's really high in the tessitura, so it's difficult to actually do. But in terms of getting it, I don't think it's that hard. Now, here we are, please, at the bottom, on page 12. The segment now, by the way, most of these segments, newsflash, are 8 bars. Okay, that's how these segments kind of work. So on page 12, measure 57, this is a segment, and this is one where it kind of recaptures some of your opening music. But this is the tricky one, because remember, 59, 60, 61, the rhythm is not exactly the same. So that's why we want to point this out. It's the same note, same idea, but the rhythm is a little more square. Here we are. Let's start at 57, just so you recognize this as a segment. So we'll start with the altos and soprano twos. Sorry. That's your part. Here we are at 57. Here's 57. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, we're not going to do the last segment for the sake of time. We'll go back and, I think we're getting that one just fine. We'll add that on later when we do a full run. But going back to the top of 12, any questions there, 57 down to 65? Any questions about your part, the difference in rhythm, anything there that's tripping you up? Okay, I like that. That's good. I mean, it's essentially exactly the same, right? If anything, it's a little easier. And by now, you've done this a bunch. That whole deal. All right. So let's back this up, please. We're going to go now down to the bottom of page 10. 49. Now we're starting to see some things. We've done a little bit of this earlier in the piece. Some of it's coming back. So here's 49. That whole deal. Let's take 49. We're not going to go on for the moment. I want to focus on this segment, okay? So 49 will go all the way over to the top of 12. Here we are, 49. 1, 2, 3. And boom. Sorry about that page turn. Would it be helpful to you, because I wanted to make sure I'm addressing the things that you're finding to be challenging. Would it be helpful to split out the 1 and 2 for the moment? Like at the pickup to 53, would you like to hear just the second part? Or is that not a big deal? No? Okay, cool, that's fine. Remember, places like page 10, measure 49, and going forward, keep the little tiny phrases separate. It's not dreidel, dreidel, dreidel. It's dreidel, dreidel, dreidel. Leg is short and thin. Spin around, spin around, spin around. Then drop, and then you win. It's not spin around, spin around, spin around, then drop, and then you win. Make it much more like storytelling. Spin around, spin around, spin around, then drop, and then you win. Okay? So keep it all the short segments. I think that'll be helpful to you. Let's do that one more time, and now we're going to keep going. Okay? Here we are at the bottom of page 10, measure 49. 1, 2, 3. And 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Two, three. One, two, three. Roll 1. 1, 2, grow off. 2, 3, etc., etc. Any questions with what we looked at? Okay, good. So we're getting to the end of anything new, right? Because I mean, in terms of tonight's rehearsal, and as we keep going back, we'll realize, okay, we're just touching on things that we sang earlier. But our last little deal is on page 9. Page 9, measure 42. Which, by the way, the segment actually starts at 41. The segment starts with the low alto. You actually are answering them. And it's really funny because you got the alto twos. So just make sure you understand you're answering them. Just sing it beautifully, but it is very funny to have these, you know. Here we go. So we're going to start at 41. Start at 41. You're in on 42. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, breathe. Off. 1, 2, 3. And good. So any questions about what's going on there on page 9 at 41? Remember at the bottom of page 9, 3 separate statements. Right? Don't make it one line. It's 3 separate things. Made it out of, made it out of, made it out of clay. Good. So now as we keep going back, man, things start looking familiar. So here we are at top of page 8. You know, we've got the normal rhythm of that, but it's the same thing we've looked at. Look at the top of page 7. Same stuff we've looked at. The last new thing for you is where you have to do this little job at the bottom of 3. So we're going to finish with a couple of run-throughs. But let's go back and touch on the last little bit of new material. New material tonight, I mean. Let's go at the bottom of 3. So this segment begins at measure 9. And we're going to go all the way over to 25. So we're going to go through, measure 9 and over to the top of page 6. So here we are. Hey, measure 9, this is the bottom of 3. You've just come from here. And now you. So right there on Get Some Raisins. 1, 2, 3. Which of course you've been through all that. By the way, it's much easier to play that when there's not a page turn in the middle of it. Sorry. Good. Okay, I want to go through the whole thing a couple of times here, the time we have left, or certainly at least once. Is there anything that you're like, oh my gosh, this moment here is getting me? Anything you want to hear? Okay, cool. Let's just go through it. Here we go. Right from the very beginning. Your first entrance is real tricky. You got to be dialed in. Here we go. Very beginning. 1, 2, 3. One off. Off. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Grow. 1, 2, 3, 4. Off. All right, is that helpful? Was that a good segment? Okay, because I mean, you know, this piece is, you know, we need you. We need you to feel good. When you get to those, you know, you have to be the soprano on stage where, I mean, when you're singing it in your own space. And I know it must be awful to have to do that in a little space. But you need your feet underneath you, right? You need your legs planted. You need space between your feet. You are a tree trunk doing that stuff, right? Imagine Brunhilde singing on stage, right? In her Wagner, she's not small. She's not feet together and knees knocked. No, you've got to be planted and get your breath, because that's got to be hot, right? And to do that physically, you need to be like, yeah, it's time to listen to me, okay? So I mean that when you're recording, have that kind of sensation. You know, because you got to have everything underneath you to sing those things beautifully. Anything else you need? Oh, yeah, Carol, go ahead.
I just wanted to say our leader is killing it for us. She's really helping us out.
Good. Or Jackie?
Yeah.
Nice.
It is.
Yay, good, good.
I have to say that I sent something to Jill, and she gave me some perfect advice on some things, and I worked it out, and it really, really helped me. Thank you, Jill. I need ears to help me.
No, that's great. That's great, guys. Good, good, good. I mean, again, I can't imagine what it's like to have to do this in a tiny little space in your home. But, you know, do your best to pretend, do your best to act, right? And this is going to be a neat piece. And I want you guys to feel great about it. But so, you know, especially at that climax at 65, just make sure you're really physically set for that big moment. And in your countenance, you know, when you're recording, make sure you don't look pained, right? Well, I mean, we all do that. Look, I watch myself in my dumb conducting videos, and I'm like, good Lord, thank you. Nobody will ever see those outside of you all. It's hard to do, but when, like in this piece, you want to have a little bit of sass, right? But no pain. You want to communicate in your face, I am perfect, and you need to listen to me because I sound good, okay? You want to have that kind of attitude. We don't have a lot of that on this semester. A lot of this semester is not like that at all. But this piece is all about a little sass, okay? All right, good work. Do me a favor, spend a few minutes in the next few days listening to That's Christmas to Me. Feel like you're figuring out what's going on, because you guys are a little behind on that compared to everybody else, but that's okay. We'll get you caught up. Thank you, I've got to go. See you all. Good night.